Okay, I'm checking now. Setting up your meeting. God, it's a lot of things to do. Directing to live. Yeah, we are going to be live now. Hello, everybody. I'm just getting everything together. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey.
Hello. It's 3 women tonight in the house. We've been putting our lipstick on. We've been putting we've been changing the lights. We've been talking about making homemade TV, which we think is pretty awesome.
It is.
I'm Melinda Ferguson. You probably know because I'm on my page. On my left, and it's probably on your right, there is the wonderful, amazing, fantastic Lebo Mashile in the house.
Hello.
Hi, Lebo.
And there, underneath me, is beautiful Helen Moffett in the most stunning hat that I've seen for years. We're both in Cape Town, Helen and I. Lebo is in Joburg. We are very excited. The fact that the president isn't speaking tonight, you should all just know that this is a public announcement and that you do not have to rush anywhere because we're going to keep you occupied for at least the next 45 minutes. These are part of our live stream lockdown extended Facebook live interviews. We've done 2 already. This is the 3rd in the series. The book that we are going to be talking about, as well as many other things, and I did have it prepared until I ran off to Facebook, is this book. And it's got neon lights on tonight. Lockdown extended. An incredible a collection of 30 of South Africa's most incredible thinkers, humorists, fiction writers, non-fiction writers, intellectuals. There's like a bundle of amazing food for thought in this book. Lebo and Helen are 2 of the contributors, and I've done my introduction. I don't have to talk more because every night I'm going to be telling you the same thing about this book. We love the book. We're proud of it. It's an ebook at the moment. It will become a print book in the nearish future. Ladies, hello.
Hello.
You know, I have to start somewhere, and because it's Zoom, we can't all talk at the same time. So I'm going to start with Lebo. You're looking so elegant, so sophisticated tonight.
I took off my pajamas and my doek and I made this pony, this lipstick, the whole thing. It's all you, babe. It's all for you guys.
Wow, I said to my boyfriend as I was putting my lipstick on, I said, it feels like we're going out, like we're getting ready for something. And this is really, I mean, we've become, in a way, so desperate for events.
Oh, it's so sad. Yeah.
So I want to talk to you, and as I said, my cat's now coming. So we're gonna, and I'm sure your cats are. We all cat people.
He loves the TV. Like he doesn't care about me all day, but let me do a Zoom, and he makes sure he's in the shot. There he is. That's Thamm.
Well, my Lucy's coming. Where's yours, Helen?
He's sitting literally 1.5 meters from me at the crucial stage of this interview. I can promise you he will jump up and knock my laptop over.
Exactly like mine. So people, if you see furry things happening, it is our cats. The 3 of us have cats.
We're 3 cat ladies.
3 mad cat ladies. And the reason mine is not in your face at the moment is that he's having a huge sulk because I sat down and put on lipstick today for the first time in 6 weeks, and now he thinks I'm going out.
Oh, well, he will find out soon that you're here.
Yes.
But you know, I think I've just digressed a bit because now all we're doing is talking about cats, and we could actually talk about cats for the whole series, in fact.
Oh, completely.
Just talk to you, Lebo, about your piece. And remember, this is a conversation. So Helen, like whenever you want to add to this, I think we should kick off with Helen, with Lebo's piece, which was the last piece that was submitted to me. I thought maybe that you were going to do a runner. I was a little bit desperate at that point, and I knew you had something, and I knew it was going to be good, but I didn't know how good it was going to be until It landed in my inbox, and I literally had cold shivers for the next like half an hour as I read and read and reread the most amazing piece that I could have hoped for to become the opener of our book.
I'm sorry for stressing you out and submitting late. I wish I could say that that's not a habit, but that's my life. I wish I could, but you know, part of the reason also why was because it took me about 3 days to write that piece, you know, from start to finish. And there were many points in writing where I had to leave it because I was so scared of what I was saying. I was triggered by what I was saying, you know? So I knew that I had to sit with it because in my own creative process, that's always a very good sign for me, you know? If I'm scared of what I'm saying, if what I'm saying is charged, if I feel like, oh my God, I can't say this, this is unsayable, this is too dangerous, then I know that what I'm saying is absolutely necessary. But it takes a while for me as a human being just to process that, you know? So at multiple points in this piece, I had to step back and had to really reflect on what my intention is with writing this. Up until that point, I mean, basically from the beginning of lockdown up until now, you know, I've been doing a lot of work, advocacy work in the media around the collapse of the gig economy, around what is happening to artists, around how difficult it's been for us to be able to engage with government, to be able to get money. I mean, what the lockdown has exposed is a very dysfunctional and toxic situation that has existed in South Africa, and I'm sure in many parts of the world, but I mean, we are here. So, I mean, we feel it acutely here, is the payment processes for artists, the lack of protection of our labor, the lack of protection for freelancers, the lack of respect for intellectual property, old archaic attitudes towards intellectual property that exist with our broadcasters that make it impossible for artists, for performers, for writers who work in particularly television to be able to get royalties, you know? So all of this kind of came crashing down. Not that I haven't been aware of it, but you know, when I'm busy living my normal life, or when I was living what was my normal life, you know, living kind of, you know, on an endless treadmill of gigs that was necessitated by the dysfunction that I've, you know, described just now, and I go into detail about in this piece, you know, I didn't have the time to be able to sit and reflect on this, you know? And I kind of said, I think I said to myself subconsciously, and I've heard a lot of artists say this, that, you know, if I can survive, I can not opt out of, but I can work within the chaos. You know, if I can work hard enough, if I can amass enough skills, if I can, you know, work myself to the bone, then I don't have to deal with the craziness of government, or I don't have to be, you know, run into the ground by the craziness of this artistic life. I'll make it work, right? But now, you know, like normal has been thrown out of the window, and we're left in a situation where, you know, the normal recourses of action are not available to us anymore. You know, I can't opt out of South Africa. I can't go and book a tour overseas. I can't get more gigs to pay for the gigs that aren't paying. Like, I'm stuck here in this situation, having to reflect on how this environment impacts on my day-to-day life and on my work, you know? And it's given me the space. I mean, I'm very thankful to you for the opportunity to write about this, because it really has been a distillation of, you know, a long process, you know, like the things that I've come across really in my entire career, but that I've become painfully, poignantly aware of right now, as I think have many people, you know. I think it also becomes difficult because one of the big problems, one of the big flaws with our society is that, you know, arts and culture are seen as this rarefied thing for the elite, right? It kind of suffers from the same stigma that psychology and psychiatry and, you know, therapy suffers from. It's something everybody needs, right? Like food, like water. But because of access, because of a lack of resources, because of a lack of education, a lack of exposure, people think that this is something for only really special people, or for people who have money, or for people out there, you know. The average South African, you know, doesn't understand the massive value chain that exists in the gig economy, doesn't understand, you know, people who are sitting at home experiencing culture through the mainstream, through television or radio, you know, they know the celebrities that they see on TV, they know, you know, the music that they hear, but the dancers, the theater makers, the literary practitioners, the photographers, the technical people, the support systems, all of the creatives who make up our world, you know, are not known by our people. Even the best and the brightest amongst us are not known. People who travel, who tour internationally, who impact culture globally, are not exposed to South Africans. And that really is the big tragedy, is that I think we are in a position where, you know, we're standing, there are a number of things that I think artists are waking up to the fact that we need to organize and that we need to mobilize if there's going to be, you know, a lasting change or impactful change, you know. But in order to do that, you know, we can't have this conversation amongst ourselves. As South Africans have to realize what they are being denied by not being able to access the best and the brightest that this country has produced. That is the tragedy, you know, the fact that we're the walking wounded, you know, we live with so many holes in our hearts because of this space and its history and what it's done to us, right? But we have the tools to be able to fill those holes, you know, as creatives, right? We have those tools in the form of, you know, the vast cultural production of this society, right? But if you don't know something, it's like, if you don't know something, you don't know what you don't know. You know, so you can't fight for what you don't realize that you're missing. You know, we can say to people that arts and culture can offer tremendous healing and, you know, can assist us as a society with critical thinking, with vision, with expansive ways of thinking, with innovation, right? That you will be, you know, you'll be better at what you do no matter what you do if you're exposed to art, if you're exposed to literature, if you're exposed to creativity, right? But if you've never seen it, how do you fight for it? You know? So I think you know, the tragedy of having a Department of Arts and Culture that really doesn't understand that its role is to make culture accessible, you know, is part of the tragedy that we are reeling from right now, you know. The fact that in many ways, you know, what should have been at the center of the transformative agenda of the last 25 years in arts and culture, you know, has been, a massive opportunity has been missed. I mean, if we still are sitting in a situation where people become household names on TV and are not able to earn royalties for the products that they've created that are sold all over the world, you know, and our artists still continue to die poor. I mean, that's policy that could have been addressed and fixed if people cared, you know? So, I mean, I'm asking myself, like, are we in this situation because, you know, our leaders, like the rest of our society, have not been exposed enough to the arts? You know, are they lacking a perspective because they also haven't been educated and haven't been informed about the importance of this, right? Or is it something much darker and much more sinister? Like, do they just not want to? Because artists are loud mouths, artists are critical, artists
I think that's
questions, you know? So is there a more deliberate agenda to silence us, you know? And when you look at the way the situation is right now, you know, whether it's intentional or out of incompetence, we are still reeling from the same toxic results of it.
Amen.
Wow. Yay. Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, I wish I recorded that, but I did. I was like, I wish I recorded it, but it is recorded.
Yeah.
You were nodding, and so was I, but I would love to hear your thoughts on what Lebo was talking about, or any of your thoughts that might move even from what she was talking about.
You're talking to me?
Yes, darling.
Okay, all right. Well, frankly, I could just listen to Lebo on this topic all night. I think what you said
Yes.
is so important. I thought her piece was so important. I just find following her thoughts and her thinking on social media on this topic is so critical. I mean, you just nail it every single time. I mean, that thing you wrote about that it is artists who do the work of processing our culture and our trauma in this country. And that's not acknowledged and it's not honored. And that, you were saying that, psychiatry and psychology are also seen as these luxuries for rich people, idle people, people with sort of time on their hands. Whereas actually in this country and in many, many, many countries, especially those who've been through an agonizing colonial post-slavery past, it's artists who do the work of that trauma processing. It is artists who are everybody's collective therapists. We're the most wholesome outlet for 100,000 kinds of wounds, pains, agonies, angers. People can disappear into a bottle or into a packet of smokes, or they can disappear into a book.
Yes.
They can lose themselves in some music. I mean, one of the things that made me angriest about the whole lockdown thing was that everybody who had an internet connection immediately started consuming culture.
Yes.
Even if it's a kid a kid in a township on a cheap Nokia playing computer games.
Yep.
Somebody designed that game. Somebody designed the program to download it. So everybody basically started sucking from our teat as the only way they were going to get through this process. But where were we? Nowhere. We're not, and as you say, you do sort of wonder about sinister agendas, and there is this kind of huge ambivalence and suspicion, and I mean, I'm generalizing madly, of the state towards culture and artists. There is a profound undervaluing and underestimating of the economic impact we have. We can't even get the figures for this country, but do you know that in the United Kingdom, 1 in 11 people works in the gig economy?
Wow.
1 in 11. Now that's everybody. That's as you point out, that's the sound guys, that's the cameraman and the camerawoman, that's the caterers, that's the electricians, that's the set builders, that's absolutely everybody, including the people who roll up in their little coffee wagon. But the point is, that's 1 in 11 people. I'm willing to bet that it's higher here. So first of all,
I would imagine.
I would imagine so too. Yeah.
It is a massive underestimation of the economic value of the sector, how many people it keeps alive, and how it also contributes to the economy in a way that is usually got quite a light environmental impact. There's that too. This is, sort of working in the arts is quite a benign way of participating in capitalism if you're going to participate in the capitalist economy.
Right.
Yes, I'm right. Am I right?
No, you're right. I mean, nobody gets into this for the money, right?
Precise.
I mean, so
yeah, exactly. But we're also not sort of like consuming massive amounts of water to make soft drinks, all that sort of thing. But then there is this kind of complete, and I wrote a blog about how called All Books Are Educational. It was one of my days when I didn't have I didn't have any energy, and we'll get to that. And I didn't have any energy, and I thought there's one thing I've got to do. I've got to address this thing of educational books versus other books, because I thought that in a nutshell shows that the state does not understand the purpose of a book. They don't understand that reading, and reading fiction especially, creates empathy. And not in a didactic way, as in you need to be kind to others and this is how. It's the actual neurological process. When you read fiction, you are required to take a leap into a world that does not exist. That neurological process, that process of imagining, creates it creates the necessary step towards feeling compassion, because you have to imagine somebody or someone else's something, even if it's a talking warthog, you have to imagine their experience. And I looked at this and I thought, the state doesn't get this. There is so much research on early childhood development that shows that the earlier children are exposed to fiction, not to their educational school textbooks, the lower their rates as adults of incarceration, drug abuse, large family size, 1,000 social ills. And then they had brought new research that shows that the average school learner within 4 years of leaving either high school or college has forgotten almost the entirety of all of the facts they learned via their educational books.
Yeah.
What they retain is the music they've heard, the characters they've identified with, the fictional stories and places they've visited. That's what stays with them. That's what creates the protective effect, what creates the social good. So it's partly that there is just no acknowledgement of that. There's no understanding of what it is that consuming culture or partaking in culture does for people in terms of and it's people, you once again, it's that whole thing of, oh, well, this is an extra, this is a luxury, children are starving. Yes, but fiction keeps that child out of jail 15 years later. That is not a luxury. That is not an optional extra. It keeps that child from disappearing down the neck of a bottle. That's not a luxury. That's a necessity. So I'm tired of this kind of, oh, we must keep VAT on books because the only people who buy books are sort of white ladies who swill wine at their book clubs. It makes me wild with rage. And everything else is just educate, and everything else is just textbooks. And then, as you say, and I think that you nailed it, there is a suspicion of artists, because what have artists always done? We've always stood there pointing and saying, oh, look, the emperor has no new clothes. We are always the truth tellers. We are always the canaries in the coal mine. We are always the ones processing trauma, processing shit, making things bearable. No, you don't want that. I see everybody smiling, and then I know that there's a cat in the cat.
A cat just came, but she wanted to stand on the keyboards, which means we might lose our meeting.
Now, because I'm literally, because I'm literally breathless.
Well, listen, I'm going to interject there. You two, you set my brain on fire. I just want to tell people, because we forget that maybe there are a few people watching us. It feels like we were literally sitting in the same room in the lounge, and I'm just watching you two fabulous women bring up the most incredible ideas. But if you've just happened to come onto this Facebook Live, we're doing a conversation tonight. I've got the most fantastic Lebo Mashile on my left. I've got the most fantastic Helen Moffett just below me. We're talking about lots of things, but we're specifically talking about arts and culture, about the gig economy, having literally been shut down overnight as coronavirus took hostage of all of us. We're talking about the book that 30 of us got together in a lockdown collective, a corona collective. Lebo's written the most amazing piece about the state of arts and culture in South Africa and what it has meant to be in lockdown, being a freelance artist, what it's meant for all of us in this country, and what it's meant on many levels. The cat is now sitting with her big bottom on the keyboard. Okay, I'm holding her away. Helen has written such an absolutely different type of piece, but such a piece of intimacy, I call it a piece of intimacy with illness. Because during this time, and you're going to talk to us a bit about this, Helen, Helen has been really ill. And I think we forget, I've been just ill in my mind during lockdown. I've just been going crazy on my own, like thoughts and fears, but I haven't been physically unable to get out of bed. And you've had this ongoing, bloody, what, you write so brilliantly about it in the book. We all get drawn into that powerlessness you start feeling. But tell us, firstly, are you feeling a little better?
No, I've given up lying. I feel like shit.
Oh, wow.
This morning I woke up and once again there was a small animal sitting on my chest and I couldn't stop coughing. And I thought, when does this bloody end? And how this fits into the whole gig economy and freelance thing, because I don't want to say a little bit about that because it kind of keeps me anchored and it means that I won't burst into tears, is that Lebo's talking about the unbelievable vulnerability and exposure of freelance artists. Try being a freelance artist in lockdown who gets too sick to work. You know, there's an sort of, and everyone was talking about, well, how do you do this? And, there's no provision for us and there's no UIF for us. And I was also thinking, yep, and there's nothing to help you if you can't, if you get too sick to work. I got sick literally just as lockdown started, 2 days before lockdown started. So I went straight home and I self-isolated. And my experience at that point, and I suppose this is what I want to tell everybody, and I will try not to cry, is that my feet went in a completely different direction to everybody else's. I've been watching the world, mostly my peers, mostly in South Africa, go through lockdown well. I have gone through lockdown with what increasingly, we're now 95% sure I've got the coronavirus and I've had COVID pneumonia.
Yeah.
And everyone says, oh, testing, tracking. I cannot get a test.
What?
I'm not a priority. I've been self-isolating from the minute I got sick. And I absolutely get that. Tests are expensive. Healthcare professionals have to put themselves at an enormous risk to test you. Then all the contacts have to be traced. There are no contacts to trace in my case. So why bother? Never mind the fact that I couldn't even get myself to a testing site. The only way I would have been able to in those awful early weeks would have been to call an ambulance. Then once again, you sit there and you think, that means somebody's got to the paramedics have got to put on PPE. They've got to take me to a hospital that has to treat me as if I have the coronavirus. And what if this is just regular bacterial pneumonia?
But it doesn't sound like it. It sounds like you've been having, when I read your piece, I had this horrible feeling that you've got COVID-19.
Well, it's one of these things that you can only tell in hindsight. Even my GP says that, when he first started trying to manage me virtually via the phone, even then, that was over a month ago, the protocols for managing the illness were completely different to what they are now. It's only now the biggest sign that I have COVID pneumonia is the fact that it recurs and it recurs and it recurs and it recurs. And meanwhile, you should see the emails from my clients. When do you think you'll be able to go back to work? I need to adjust the schedule. I need to send this book to print. When do you think you'll be able to go back to work? And I have to say to them, I have no fucking clue, because I'll feel a little bit better and a little bit better. And then I'll wake up the next morning and I won't be able to breathe and I will barely be able to crawl to the kitchen. And then I'll get people saying, oh, you can go and get a drive-through test from, Dis-Chem in Century City. I'm like, are you kidding? I can barely make myself a cup of tea. Then people say, oh, I'll drive you. And then we come up against that whole middle class and vulnerability. So many unbelievably kind people have said to me, I'll drive you to a test. I've got an essential services purpose. And all I could think of was, you must risk being in a car with me for an hour when you're already providing an essential service? What makes you think that I won't infect you? This is a highly, highly infectious disease. So one of the ways that my path has diverged so dramatically from everybody else is that I'm still seeing people, even the debate about the, sort of the lockdown destroying the economy and saving lives and all the rest of it. And I'm like, people, that's not the problem. The problem is that in 1 to 2 months' time, you are all going to be sick. You won't necessarily die, but you will be so bloody sick, you will barely be able to crawl around your bedroom. You will have a week in which you won't even notice time passing, as I wrote about. You are going to be deeply sick, and during that period, you are going to be profoundly infectious, and that is what is going to destroy our economy. So, you know, in that sense, we're in a completely lose-lose situation. I mean, I don't see how, but everyone around me, or, you know, if I watch them on social media, etc., is saying stuff like, oh, you know, sort of people are starving, poverty is worse than lockdown, etc., etc. And I'm like, what are you going to do when all the agricultural workers and garbage collectors and shelf packers and people manning the tills in Dis-Chem and at Checkers, what are you going to do when half those people are off sick? Because that is...
I've been someone who's been weighing up I've been weighing up whether COVID-19 is going to be worse than all the fallout that it's creating and the starvation and everything. And I've been quite vocal about that perspective. You know, the thing is, watching you are ill, and if you've got it quite badly. I think, I mean, you're not on a respirator, please God. And I'm telling you now, if you need to, I will fucking come and pick you up. I will, because I do not want you to lie there not being able to breathe. And I'm feeling incredibly worried about you and feeling completely powerless because I'm not that far. I'm a 40 k's away from you. But, you know, so I think we're in such we are in a lose-lose situation here. There's no good side in a way to be on in terms of thought, because everyone is losing. So it's about how much do we lose? And what you've described is very compelling. And you're right, because if you are firsthand experiencing what possibly could be COVID-19, I've watched you from a little bit of the outside. Yeah, you are seriously ill. I don't know how you managed to write your piece without a comma or a full stop incorrect. How did you?
Let me tell you, it has been fucking traumatic. It's been I was thinking today, it's been one of the worst things I've ever had to experience. You know, 3.5 years ago, I had 4 internal organs removed, massive amounts of tumors taken out of my abdomen, and basically from the pelvis up, I had to be rebuilt. It took 2 months to recover from that surgery. It was a walk in the park compared to this.
Yes.
And it's because people could come and see me. They could make my bed. They could serve me a meal on a tray. They could bring me cat food. They could do the washing up. If I so much as need a glass of water, I have to get up and get it myself. And the trauma of having to nurse yourself when you've got pneumonia, even in the days when we still thought it was ordinary pneumonia, which it might still be, you know, we don't know. That has been profound. And that is, I think, what has made me feel so cut off from everybody else. Because I see, for example, you know, we're talking about now, we're entering into that third quarter, you know, the Antarctic or the space station model where everybody's just at each other's throats and swearing. And I'm like, I spent the 4-day Easter weekend honestly wondering if I was going to live or die. Because you go into a kind of trance. You don't think very clearly when you can't breathe. And I was sort of sitting there thinking, you know what? It's warm. I'm in the arms of somebody I love, my cat. Frankly, there are worse. You know, I do not want to go into a hostile place. I'm deaf. I lip read. Now I must go into a hospital where everybody's got masks on. I can't even communicate or connect on the most basic level. I will be put into a ward and have a ventilator shoved down my throat. And frankly, I'd rather die in my own bed. So then I sort of emerge from all of this and I see people being nasty to each other. And I'm thinking, do you not realize how unbelievably fucking lucky you are to be alive? Do you not realize that you could die? is this how you want to spend the last few weeks of your life? So there I am. I want to be all Pollyanna, and I want to save the world, and I want everybody to be nice, and I want everybody to be kind. And meanwhile, everybody who's now finding this, I'm like, you people are all insane.
But you know, that is always what it's like when one is ill. You work from such a different place and perspective. When one is well, you forget about that perspective. And I think that must be so hard for you to be watching this whole world, in a way, fighting tobacco, alcohol, and all this craziness that's been happening on social media. And Lebo, I want to talk to you because you bring out social media. I mean, you write some of the best stuff that I've read about Black Twitter.
How did I lose you?
Did you lose me?
Absolutely.
Lebo, are you there?
I am here. I am here. Let me see. How do I find you again?
Oh, just push through.
Sorry.
Okay, you haven't lost us. So I want to talk to you a bit about, because we're talking a little bit about the craziness on social media, but you brought this incredible light onto Black Twitter, and only someone like you could write it, because I sure as hell and Helen couldn't write that. You wrote some incredibly funny but such hard-hitting shit about Black Twitter and social media, and about how Black Twitter makes such fun and so many jokes around tragedy and the harsh thing, and you just talk to us about that, so I don't go and describe it. You tell us.
I mean, South African humor is unbelievable. It is dark, it is sarcastic, it's quick, you know, it's like it travels at lightning speed, and it's like our first line of response to trauma all the time, you know? So, I mean, social media takes on these characteristics and becomes an incredible outlet for all kinds of humor, for, you know, but this is how we process public tragedy. This is how we process politics. This is how we process like generational trauma, you know, like running memes about deadbeat fathers and apartheid. And, you know, I mean, we really take the darkest shit that happens to us and turn it on its head and turn it into humor. And it makes for incredible content in real time. So when COVID hit, you know, like, well, I shouldn't say when COVID hit, because I think when the first South African was diagnosed, that night on Twitter, I stayed up until like 2:30 in the morning laughing my fucking ass off. Like, all the permutations of the names, all the memes, like it was a riot. It was hilarious, but because also it was still far removed, you know? So, I mean, it's one case, it was one case at that time. Also, in the very beginning, the face of COVID was white and privileged in South Africa, you know? It was those, you know, 10 Italians who went on holiday in January. Like, who goes on holiday in January? Everybody's broke. In January, I'm busting my ass to pay school fees and to recover from December. Like, you guys are on holiday in Italy, like, please, that's another fucking reality. I've got no reference point for that kind of shit. January is like literally handing my ass to me every year, you know? So, and here these people come back and you bring the fucking plague. Wow, you know? So, I mean, in the beginning, it was just like, Black Twitter was, I think we all went into kind of collective denial. Like, okay, this is a rich white people thing. It's got nothing to do with us. Finally, here's a trauma that doesn't have a black face, that doesn't actually want black bodies. Yeah, we're good. You know, you don't have a passport. You don't have money. You broke. You know, you eating pilchards. You don't have to worry about COVID, right? And then I remember the night that Idris Elba and his wife were on Twitter. Well, on Instagram, when they did their video, and he had been diagnosed, and everyone was like, oh my God. I mean, I'm sure there were other black people on planet Earth who had COVID by that time, but it was like to see somebody who's so visible and, you know, everyone
and gorgeous
and healthy and sexy and, you know, and has money, and there he is and he's got it. It was like, oh my God, what is this? It means Black people can get it, you know? And then, I mean, things happened very quickly after that, you know? Once, when things really became very real for me, when I started to see my international work fall apart, you know? So I spend about like 30% of my time on the road outside of South Africa, you know? And half of my time here at home is on the road, you know, here within the country. So I spend, this is the first time in, you know, like 15 years that I've been in Johannesburg in my home for this long, you know? This is the first time in like 15 years that I haven't had to, that I've spent, you know, 6 weeks without packing a suitcase. It's crazy for me. So when my international work stopped, you know, I could, and I saw also other musicians speak about canceled tours, dancers and choreographers speak about canceled tours, and then people that I was kind of in production with, working and preparing for gigs that were coming up, you know, all of a sudden that work became suspended. They won't say it's canceled, they'll say it's suspended indefinitely, you know, because London was also going into lockdown, Nigeria was going into lockdown, India was going into lockdown. And when that happened, I was like, oh, this is coming. With like, and it came so fast. Within like 10 days, we had our social distancing mandate, you know? So, I mean, it was strange. I mean, at that time, I still had gigs booked in South Africa. I finished up the gigs that I had here. But even while I was doing those gigs, you know, there was the idea that these were my last live performances. I mean, like for audiences, for live audiences, that it didn't occur to me. And when I think about it right now, it's wild. Like if someone had told me that would be maybe the last time I stood before, you know, 100 people, maybe, you know, for the next 2 years, like, what? I mean, this is what I've been doing for 20 years. How do I orientate my never mind my life, just my mind,
Your mind,
my body.
It's been incredibly disorientating. It's like we've woken up into some kind of nightmare. There've been many mornings that I've woken up thinking, is this actually real? Is it real what has happened? Like, how did this happen so quickly? And then, of course, I guess there are so many people thinking and writing quite incredible stuff about how this has been happening for a long time, and that this is not just something that's done this. But that's for another whole conversation, because that is quite a sinister conversation we could have. I think that, I mean, what I'm loving about listening to the two of you and just sharing this evening with you is feeling like so much common identity in the helplessness, even though I'm not ill at the moment physically. Like I have such the isolation from the world outside, and the non-traveling, and the change, and the gigs that have been cancelled, and income streams that have been put on hold, if not forever, certain ones. It has put us all into an incredibly vulnerable position. Helen, more so than actually most people I know, because you're alone and you're ill. And that is a big mind fuck of note. I can't even begin to actually really, and you know, see what fucking absolute hell you must have been going through.
No, it has not been fun. And I've kind of felt the need to put a brave face on it, because what is the point of terrorizing my family, who are absolutely helpless? I mean, my sister's just on the other side of the mountain, but she can't come and help me. You know, we're under lockdown. My parents are in their 80s. They're at the other end of the country. So there I am thinking, well, you know, sort of, well, but literally, I mean, there were about 3 weeks where every single morning I'd wake up and I'd think, Pollyanna, I'm not dead yet. But yeah. Oh, and just talking about Lebo's identity as a performer and what it must be like to lose that overnight. I know that this is a tiny little whine and it shouldn't matter. And frankly, I'm just so grateful to be alive. But COVID ate my book, my first novel.
I know.
To go to the Bath Literary Festival and to launch my Charlotte, and oh God.
Oh.
So yes, we're all
But
there.
darling, it will still be there, won't it, at the end of all of this?
At the end of all of this, you know, it was classic. The UK, they sent out to the printers in London, and that morning they started the UK lockdown. They literally walked away, they literally shut the presses down, walked away, threw away the key, and they said, you know, sometime in the autumn we might publish it.
And you don't have the option of doing like an ebook, releasing it during this time?
Okay, no. I shouldn't whine, but I didn't want to kind of sound like I was using this as a platform for advertising, but the ebook and the audiobook by a very, very lovely actress out on the 14th. Yay!
Oh, wow. You see, you know, the
Good news.
I think one of the things, and we're having to kind of wrap up towards getting to the end of this. We have actually been speaking for almost an hour, by the way. It doesn't feel like it. I think one of the difficulties is when we look at our own little worlds of grief, because there's a lot of grief going on at the moment for the loss of books, the books that sit in warehouses, the books that haven't gone, the gigs that we've lost. And then we look at the bigger picture of starvation and absolute abject poverty. And for me, there's a huge amount of guilt that I feel when I feel grief, because I think, oh, well, you're not that bad. You've got this, you've got food in the cupboard, you're okay. So I've been curtailing my grief for quite a while. And what I do then is I try work and I try and act like everything's going to be okay. But I think it's very important that we all have to own what we've actually lost. And it doesn't matter if your fridge is fucking full, you still have lost things. And I think that for us artists and for us writers and editors and publishers and gig people and all of us, we all have to, in a way, stay in the moment somewhere along the line where we say, we're feeling fucking sad.
I mean, I'm like you. I can work myself into the ground. So, I mean, whether I've got gigs or no gigs, I've got a million different projects that I'm working on, and I'm constantly, you know, like I'll invent new stuff to be working on. Like, you know, I'm like, so, I mean, I spent the first month of this really in that mode, you know, and it really, my manic work mode culminated with writing this piece for this book. After processing all of that, I spent like almost nearly 2 weeks in bed. Like I'm coming out of, you know, that period of deep sadness, sorrow, grieving, depression. And it hit me like, okay, oh, I'm grieving. And I mean, I think a lot of people have been processing all of this. So there's amazing literature out there. There's amazing articles about, you know, how people are processing the pandemic in different ways. So I think, you know, because of all that, those thoughts and those ideas floating around, you know, it hit me and then gave me permission as well to allow myself to really feel the loss of it. Like, this is sad and it's scary, and it's also sad that there are more hungry people on the street. It's sad that, you know, going to the supermarket also becomes an experience of having to really see what the effects of this are on the broader community, on poor people, on, you know, how many more hungry people there are in the street, how many more people we are, you know, put in a position where we can, but also have to help, you know. I mean, it's also mind-blowing how much mental and emotional work we have been doing as the most unequal society on earth to maintain buffers between us really confronting the reality of what privilege in this country is propped up on, you know? I mean, we can say we understand, we can say that, okay, I mean, you know, I don't think any of us are isolated from poverty, you know? I mean, certainly being Black, I mean, you know, like Black tax and the even if you're Black and middle class or Black and elite, you know, the reality of poverty hits close to the bone, right? But even then, you know, I'm surprised by how much bullshit clogged up my brain, and I fancy myself to be aware, you know, how much bullshit clogged up my brain and my time to take me away from how perverse the reality that we have accepted as normal in this country really is, you know? And it's not that COVID created that. That's what we've been living with, you know.
We have been living with that.
Living with it. But COVID now forces us to deal with it in real time.
I agree. I'm just moving around because I'm sorry, I'm sentimental. I just have to show you all something.
Look at this. Oh, sweet.
Kitty. Oh, hello, Kitty.
That's a pretty cat. Who's that?
That's Boykie. He's my three-legged rescue cat.
Oh.
And Lucy's lying right next to the thing. I don't think we're going to be able to show. We only want to see Boykie at the end of this. Or Lucy and your beautiful boy. What's your boy's name, Lebo?
Thamm.
Thamm.
Thamm means lion in Sisotho.
Okay, we've got Lucy, who's actually Lucifer, because I think Lucy's actually a male, but we haven't ever quite established this. So Lucy, Lucifer, Boykie.
Boykie, like a boykie course, like three-legged boykie. And
It's actually Boychik, the Jewish endearment, but then hang on a sec. Use mommy's boy.
Oh, let's.
Anyway,
that's a beautiful boy.
Anyway, but he's Boykie for short.
I'm going to be. I'm flashing. I'm flashing the book cover again.
Good. Oh, and Melinda, you must tell everybody it's coming in print.
Yes, I did kind of mention that. Lockdown extended, everybody. It looks like it's floating in neon beauty, but it actually is just on my iPad. This amazing book. The conversation we've been having tonight has been encompassing many thoughts that are in this book. Two pieces that we've been looking at, ideas around at least, are Lebogang Mashile's beautiful, what's it called again, Lebo?
Lockdown, no laughing matter.
Oh yeah, no laughing matter. Helen, brilliant Moffett, who we just are sending a lot of bloody healing love to you.
Yes, thank you. I need it all.
And that light is actually beautiful on you now. This light is even better.
I thought of this all along, but yes. Anyway, and.
So guys, this is the book. It's on Amazon. It keeps on reappearing into the best-selling new releases in globalization, in sociology, if you don't mind. We're in sociology as well. Lockdown Extended, this beautiful collection of work written by 30 authors in South Africa, all of them fabulous writers. We're going to be doing more interviews, more talks, a lot of talks in the next 2 weeks. You can buy this on Kobo, an e-app, for only 103 Rand. You can buy it on Amazon for about 135, depending on the dollar of the day. But guys, the most exciting thing is that I'm currently putting the Lockdown collection, the print version, together. So for all of those you who love books that actually exist, like Stephen Sinby's Leaving Word, books that have pages.
Yes.
The book industry is alive, guys. The book lounge love books, exclusive books. I'm going to give a shout out to exclusive books right now because Uber Reads have just gone into action.
Fantastic!
You can use Uber Rides to get Uber Reads from exclusive books. Isn't that beautiful?
That's a brilliant idea.
Brilliant.
So guys, the book industry, the artists, the people, the creatives, we are making plans. We're being flexible. Flexibility is the order of the day. If we can't be flexible, we're going to actually have to get very stuck. And so we are trying our best. We really want people to read again. We want people to celebrate again. I was going to say to gigs again, but I mean, we'll wait for the gigs to happen. Thank you so much, you two. Thank you for the beautiful conversation.
I feel so much better just having connected emotionally with you two.
Oh, wow.
Well, listen, this is going to be on Facebook, and please watch it through the night. It is a lovely thing to be able to watch ourselves over and over. I must say, my boyfriend always says, "What is wrong with you? Why do you want to watch yourself again?" I'm like, I just want to see. And then Khumalo did that the other day. We all do it, let's admit. So Lebo and Helen, my beautiful two, I send you so much love. Thank you for spending a wonderful night with me.
This has been wonderful. I'm so proud of you, Melinda, and to you, Helen. I mean, to brave the day, brave the screen, and brave the page, you know, with everything that you've been through. I'm in awe, you know. Melinda, I wish I had your work ethic. My God, I can't believe what you've produced. This is unbelievable. You're unparalleled. Your production levels are through the roof. It's incredible. It's incredible.
Thank you, but I do think that if I stop, I feel like I'll die. So it is a little bit manic at the moment, and hopefully one of these days I'm just going to actually sleep.
Yes, take care of yourself. Don't. This is my advice to all of you. From someone who's been sick, don't let your batteries run down too much.
I know everyone keeps telling me that, but then I keep going. Yes. One more day. Yeah. But listen, guys,
you've done a beautiful job. Thank you. Congratulations. And Lebo, I think that your essay, which opens the collection, is one of the most important things long term.
Forever. Yeah. And Eleanor Sisulu, if you ever watch this, thank you for the most beautiful endorsement for this book.
Oh.
It made me really feel like we had been seen. And that was such a big thing, because we don't really know with ebooks. There's a different type of relation. Look, we're starting a whole nother conversation. This is supposed to be saying goodbye, but now we like talking about the other thing. I do want to just thank Eleanor, and she, I think it was because of you, Helen, that you got Eleanor onto the book through Kobo. So it made me really feel acknowledged as a collective. Our work had been seen by someone we all admire so much. And so everybody, thank you for watching. Thank you for being with us. We've had a beautiful night. You two go and sleep. I'm going to soon. And love you lots.
Big love to you both, and gratitude. Thank you so much. And lots of healing light to you, Helen. Lots and lots and lots and lots and lots. Oh, thank you so much. My heart is so full.
Oh, darling. Is she still there, Helen? Bye, darling.
Bye.
Bye, my loves. I better end this meeting. I don't really want to. Okay, it's ending.
Okay, bye.
Lebo.